From Reason Alliance Media, this is Season 1, Episode 4, Woman Up. I'm Miss B. Haven, and on today's show, we have a new segment, Your Faves Are Problematic. This time it's about Harry Potter. We have an interview with Callie Wright, host of the Gaytheist Manifesto, an amazing person, also great hugger. We're talking about sex ed inclusivity. Then we also have Two Trumps and a Puppy, and another episode of Dr. Wu. Stay tuned.
Hello, this is Miss Anthrope with a segment that I like to call Your Faves Are Problematic, where I tell you why your favorite things are problematic. See, I really pulled that one out there. So I read an article several months back when Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them first came out, and I was so interested in this that I told Miss B, I was like, I have to talk about it on the podcast. So it was called On Newt Scamander, Toxic Masculinity and the Power of Hufflepuff Heroes. That's already right up my alley. I literally have a Harry Potter tattoo. Like, yeah, I really do. And a feminist tattoo too. Nice. Yeah. So, basically what the article was saying is that our glorious Newt, who's played by, Eddie Redmayne, is his name, is the absolute epitome of what a Hufflepuff hero should be. Which, as a Hufflepuff, I definitely agree with that. And it was talking about how he was the kind of the antithesis of what a traditional masculine hero would look like. He was a very tender person, especially like they showed him in a maternal role with his magical creatures. Specifically, he called himself Mummy. That was so cute. I know, his little green whatever it was called that was like in his pocket. Yeah. Oh God, I have to watch that movie again now. Yeah. So he was absolutely adorable, taking care of them. He was nonviolent. Whenever he was, in trouble with the law, he didn't try to fight back. He was just saying, please protect my creatures. Absolutely melted my heart. And Eddie Redmayne does a lot of like very, like non-traditional masculine roles. Yeah. So obviously he was in The Danish Girl, which he played a trans woman there. And I think you talked about that on another episode. He was in, in Les Mis, he was Marius, which is like the romantic man. He was in, what's the Stephen Hawking one? Theory of Everything. Yeah. Yeah. So he is actually, he's kind of made a name for himself as somebody who does not play these hero roles, I guess, like we would traditionally think of it. But the article is arguing that our boy Newt is actually the hero that the feminist age deserves. And that kind of brought me to thinking about, what does that say about Harry Potter, the love of my life? And it's not looking good, y'all. So here's where I start talking about Harry Potter and the toxic masculinity of his angsty youth. So obviously Harry has a lot of problems, right? He's gone through a lot. But the way that he chooses to express these problems is to not do it, to not express these problems until the Order of the Phoenix, in which he got really, really emo and everyone hated him.
Very angsty in that book, yeah.
Yeah, that one, see, personally, that was my favorite because I was like, oh, he has feelings. But nobody liked it because he wasn't he was kind of being a little whiny child. I would too.
He is a child.
Yeah, he is a child. The Dark Lord is after him. He has no parents. Some blonde kid's picking on him at school. He's got a lot of shit going on.
His life's pretty shitty.
I know. And he kissed Cho Chang once and then that fell apart. And he's having a hard time. He just saw Edward Cullen die last year.
Being a teenager is hard enough as it is.
Without all the magic bullshit happening to it. You would think.
And the Voldemort thing.
Yeah. You would think when you get to go to Hogwarts, your teenagedom would get infinitely better. But alas, 'tis not the case. In the case of Harry Potter, he was a very he was very insidious about all his anger throughout the book, and that kept coming back to be problematic whenever he would have like a clash with Ron, especially. And Ron had like a very competitive friendship, and that's also Ron's fault for making everything a pissing contest. But I digress. And he kind of took that out on women as well. Yeah. His love interest throughout the book. I especially remember like when I was reading the 6th book, and I think I was like 13 maybe when I was reading it, like 12 or 13, and where he was breaking up with Ginny because he breaks up with Ginny and Dumbledore dies. Snape kills Dumbledore.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, when he's like breaking up with Ginny because he like doesn't want to put her in danger. What the fuck, man? She's been like by your side like all this time. I just felt so hard for Ginny, and then I was like, he's not a good boyfriend. And that broke my heart because I always thought I would marry Harry Potter one day, but I didn't. Unfortunately, Ginny did. Yeah. Poor thing. And then when we get to the cursed child, we have
marry Neville.
Yes. Oh my God. Neville is okay. So if I were marrying anyone, it'd be Hermione. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I always read Hermione as a queer character personally. So
thank you.
Okay. I'm so glad that you agree with me there, because like I used to write Harry Potter fan fiction where Hermione was in a relationship with Ginny, and I shipped that like 5,000 times more than what J.K. Rowling wrote up.
Yeah, that kind of made more sense. But
I know. They were like, oh God, they would have been like the coolest like power lesbian couple.
Yes, they would.
Shit, that will always live on in our fanfics and our hearts. Hermione Granger was, I feel like, my personal introduction to feminism and like women being badasses, because I started reading the Harry Potter books when I was 7 or 8, and that was the first time that I saw a girl, like a young girl, in the role of someone who's doing something about problems. Like, yeah. Instead of having to be rescued all the time, like every princess movie that I ever watched as a young child, and I love them. I still love the Disney princess movies, but oh my God, like Hermione changed my worldview on everything. She was so smart, and I didn't know that I was allowed to be like vocally smart around boys. That was amazing to me. And of course they hated her, they thought she was annoying as hell, because that's what happens when you're a smart woman. People want you to shut up. But also that kind of prepared me for my life in academia. Being a politics major kind of can be a boys club a lot of the time.
No kidding.
Yeah. Who would have thought, right? So yeah, I'm at a Southern conservative college, and I am very exposed to the egos of men all the time, and I feel like I really learned a lot from Hermione's delicate handling of the fragile egos of Ron and Harry.
Totally.
I feel like the whole series could just be renamed like Hermione and the Time I Saved Everyone from Fucking Everything Up, because Harry does what he wants.
Hermione Granger saves the day.
Hermione Granger in the order of I think the fuck not.
Well, and her whole thing with the house elves in the books,
oh my God,
was so awesome. And then it wasn't in the movies, and I was really upset about that.
Spew was so important to me.
Yeah. She was an activist.
Yes, Hermione was an activist. She was a freaking genius.
A grassroots organizer. She was similar to, like first generation college students. She was a first generation wizard. She really had a lot of the activist and social justice warrior qualities that I wanted to see in her. And I think probably my favorite Hermione Granger moment that ever happened was when she obliviated her parents' memory of her whenever, oh my God, I still cry every time that happens in the movie. People are like, oh, I cry every time Dobby dies. I cry when she obliviates her parents. Oh my God. Like, so that they wouldn't miss her, or so she could like give her life to the movement. Imagine, growing up, she had a good relationship with her parents. I know this would be different if she didn't, but, growing up with these two loving, wonderful, very normal people, and like
removing yourself from their lives to protect them. I just can't imagine making that decision at the age of 17.
That moment was awful.
It's still heartbreaking. Like, I'm getting like a little lump in my throat right now thinking about it. Like, that's how emotionally invested I was into that.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm definitely crying. You're right. Correct.
That was super awesome. Thank you for sharing that Harry Potter rant.
You're welcome.
I just want to go watch all the movies again now.
I do too. Should have a Harry Potter marathon.
Yes. It's time to celebrate with Miss Andrea's Bathhouse. It has been 1 year of smashing the patriarchy and smelling marvelous together. That's right, it's been 1 whole year since Miss Andrea's has been in business, and they're celebrating with the best beauty box ever. This month, and this is for the April box, your box will feature 7 celebratory samples and a bunch of extra fun party favors, including artwork, trinkets, candy, stickers, and more super fun secret stuff. Make sure you follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr for super secret sneak peeks throughout the month. Pre-orders will be open throughout the month of March, and boxes will ship April 1st. Because they have so many fun extras from their favorite artists and crafters, sales are limited for this one, and we cannot guarantee that the box won't sell out early. As usual, U.S. shipping is included in the box price, and international shipping is only $10, so check it out at www.missandry.com. That's MSANDRY.com. All right, so today we have Callie Wright with us, host of the Gaytheist Manifesto podcast. And Callie, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I was born in a small town in 1934. And
Do the
I'm glad you
producer's
found
moment,
that funny, because
that's not me. That's not my life. I was born in Brooklyn.
Somebody else's life is flashing before my eyes.
That's the joke that I always make. Somebody's like, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. And it's just funny in my head because, you know, people always just want to tell you every single insignificant detail. Like, oh my God, let me tell you about the first time I pooped as a kid. Like, yeah.
I actually want to know about that now. Tell me about your childhood.
Oh, God.
That'll be $500, please.
I am funny, friends. That's what we have figured out here today. Not really. I hope. Well, maybe to 1 or 2 people. Anyways, so yeah, I host the Gaytheist Manifesto podcast. I do lots of public speaking and blogging and all that sort of fun stuff. I am a trans woman, activist, queer hugger of people, and
championship hugger of people.
Right. Yeah. So. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So we were talking about like gender neutral sex ed and how difficult it is to separate like heteronormativity from sex education. Bella, could you tell us a little bit more about what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, no. So like for me as like a sex geek or a sex educator, quote unquote, because I'm not sort of anything official, but I have noticed in my own, like when I'm writing blogs or talking to people about it, I tend to, you know, when I'm talking about the vagina or anything like that, I tend to use very heteronormative language. You know, like for a woman, vaginal orgasms are nearly impossible or something like that. What I recognize after the fact that, you know, not all vagina owners are female. And I would like to be able to have like an easier jumping off point or to be able to start using gender neutral language. And so that's for myself personally, but also there's the idea of, you know, teaching gender neutral sex ed in schools, and how important that is because of, you know, the cultural messages that boys and girls get, things like testosterone equals masculinity and estrogen equals femininity. And, you know, the sex drives of boys peak earlier than those of girls, and girls have lots of feelings. You know, there's a lot of like separation of the genders in culture, and well, sex education is a joke anyway, but it's all pretty. So I just want to discuss all of that, however you want that to go.
I think it's hard because like if we're speaking in terms of society generally, and this is different for folks like us who are a little bit more, I guess, enlightened is the word that I would use, because I think at that point it's just about breaking habits as opposed to having problematic attitudes. But I think a lot of it is the fact that people are afraid to use words like penis and vagina in the first place.
Penis.
So
vagina.
Right. So when people are saying something about a penis, they're talking about a man, and they say it because saying man is easier than saying penis because there's such an aversion to those words, just using the correct words for genitalia. So I think breaking that stigma would be a great place to start. And then of course, obviously, it's a good idea to break the idea that, one necessarily equals the other. But I think it also a lot just comes from the idea that we're so like a lot of times we're so nervous to talk about sex and be honest about sex. Like even in some of the more sex positive sex education things that I've seen where they want to be frank and informational and they're not shaming people, like there's still sort of that tendency to be like, what we're really doing is we're being very sex positive and we're normalizing heterosexual cisgender sex. And we want to remove all of the stigma from that particular brand of sex. And we want to make people very comfortable with that particular brand of sex. And then when other things come into play, that's where everyone gets uncomfortable. So I think it's sort of a broad mix of all of those things put together that just sort of end up with this terrible soup of, people who grow up in those environments being ashamed of who they are, thinking that, because again, I mean, that just feeds into the idea that everyone but me is normal. And that's a terrible message for a kid to get. I mean, if someone realizes as a kid, I mean, say that, for example, they're just like a cisgender gay person, even, they grow up with the idea that whatever sex they're desiring or whatever they're imagining themselves doing with their prospective partners is wrong. And then obviously, when you bring trans people into the mix, it gets even worse because, then you're talking about, someone who may or may, because obviously not all trans people are uncomfortable with their genitals, but, for someone who is, you're still getting those messages. And then you're internalizing not only that the way that you perceive your sexuality is wrong, but who you are as a person is wrong. So like you were born a boy, and I know that quote unquote born a boy. And I know that, when we're saying man in the context of sex, that's a euphemism for penis. So it creates this sort of firestorm of internalized, just really, really awful things that people think about themselves. And that's a really high mountain to climb.
And it's such an oversimplification of who we all are. I mean, how much more beautiful and wonderful and complex we all are in comparison to this ridiculous binary box that people get stuffed into.
Well, right. And I'm even thinking to myself, like even if for a second we accept that woman equals vagina, man equals penis, like no two vaginas and penises are really the same either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, it doesn't even make sense from that point of view. Like not saying that we should adopt that point of view, but I mean, just thinking through how absurd it is. Like, obviously, when you're speaking in anatomy, sometimes you can speak in generalizations, like this is the way things usually work and that kind of thing. But I think where we get into trouble is, we can speak in terms of generalizations and say, this is how this thing works for most people. And I think inherent in that a lot is saying that if this doesn't work that way for you, there's something wrong with you. Because when we talk about what's normal, there's a moral judgment inherent in normal, as opposed to, I mean, the word normal is really just supposed to mean the thing that happens 50% plus one of the time. Right?
Exactly.
And,
yes.
and I think a lot of times we attach a moral value to what happens 50% plus one of the time, as opposed to just saying like, well, this is the situation for most people. So if I am saying this to you, it's likely to apply to you. And if we were able to leave it there, I don't necessarily think that would be such a problem. But I also don't think that it's difficult. to at the very least just acknowledge that, like, yeah, this is the way things work for most people, but for lots of other people, here are these other things. You know, most women are cis. Okay, fair. So most women have vaginas. Okay, like there's if we were able to step outside of the cultural context that these things exist in, those wouldn't necessarily be problematic statements. It's just the fact that those things are automatically tied together. There's no question. There's no qualification. There's no exception. There's no, you know, women equals vagina, except for these other circumstances. So you need to be aware that these exist too, and that these people's experiences are real and valid as well. Like we can't even get to that just most basic of places.
I think if we had, how do you oh sorry, I was just going to say, I think if we had the author of Everyone Poops handle this subject, it would go over so much easier for everybody.
I was going to say, how do you suggest someone like me, for instance, I'm already there mentally, right? Like I understand, but when I'm talking about, I have no problem using vagina and penis and things like that, but it's more like when I'm talking about very specific issues. And you're right about the generalization thing, where I can say, sorry, this is the topic that's on my brain a lot, so it's the example I keep going back to, where I can say, you know, it's very difficult for women to have vaginal only orgasms. Most need clitoral stimulation. And going back and thinking, well, how can I say that sentence so that I include, you know, people with vaginas who don't identify as female? So how would I say something like that differently, more inclusively?
Well, the thing that just popped into my head, and maybe this is an inappropriate joke.
No, it's fine. Like, make all the inappropriate jokes.
There are plenty of women who don't have vaginas, and it's very difficult for them to have vaginal orgasm too.
Very true. But if we're speaking about specifically the difference of.
Well, I think you could just reframe that in terms of, you know, vaginal orgasm is difficult.
Right. Just cutting out gender altogether. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Find
because,
your own way.
Right. Because, just like with all sorts of varieties of trans people, I mean, there are plenty of trans men who are 100% comfortable with their bodies as they are. And then obviously, you know, some who will seek surgery to make whatever changes they feel are necessary. So I think bringing gender into that at all may be sort of a
unnecessary.
It would be tough to do that without putting yourself into those into those places where you might be excluding folks. And I mean, obviously, if we're doing more than talking about any one individual person, it's going to be impossible to include literally every single person, right?
Right.
But I think the question is, are we honestly doing our best to be as inclusive as possible? And I think that's sort of the goal to be in. So yeah, I think it would be very easy to just say, vaginal orgasm for people who have those is an extremely difficult thing, and you could just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely just something that I've been so much more aware of, especially when I put myself on platforms like this, where more than just the group of people I'm talking to can hear me, you know? And I want to, me personally, I don't know, this is for everyone, I guess, who's ever going to talk about sex with anyone else. But, you know, that's just something that I really want to be able to include as many people as possible.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a broader, you know, effort. It's kind of like a broader effort that I've made to sort of remove gender from situations where it's not relevant. Mm-hmm. Sex is sex, and people of all genders and body arrangements and all of that have sex, you know. So unless we're talking about a specific, like, you know, I can talk about, you know, what I've heard in general about the sexual experiences of trans women, for example. Mm-hmm. So then you can kind of start to generalize a little bit, but then right. Like, you know, obviously you want to couch everything that you say in terms of like, well, this is what I've heard. This is what, you know, lots of people report. Or, obviously things are going to be different, you know, for a trans woman who's had sex reassignment surgery versus a trans woman who is not. Mm-hmm. So, just different things like that. It always, you don't have to spend 10 or 15 minutes qualifying literally everything you say. But I do think it's important. I mean, you can even just throw in those a lot of times when I'm talking about those things, I'll just say out front that anything that I'm talking about, unless I say otherwise, I'm speaking from my own personal experience as a trans woman who still has a penis. And
right.
And then I can kind of go from there and just make sure that I'm speaking for myself and my experience. And then I can say something like, well, I had a friend who did this and she told me this is what that was like.
Mm-hmm.
Or, those kinds of things. And I think that's a really helpful way to do it too.
Or saying
Awesome.
In my experience, starting out and then going from there. And if you screw up, which we all do with pronouns and with separating gender from sexuality, we all screw up, and coming at it from a point of view where we say, oh shit, sorry, and move on instead of making a huge deal out of it, I think would probably be a better idea in the long run, because we can just continue to correct each other and hold each other responsible for making sure that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome.
I'm super excited about this. I really hope this becomes a thing. I saw on that article that you were talking about, Bella, that there was
Oh, yes.
oh gosh, where was it? In February.
I can send this. Will there be a bleeping noise if I send this?
Probably.
Okay, then never mind. I'll send it to you later, Callie. It's just an article I sent to her earlier before this.
It was
sorry. Let's start over that little section. You can cut that out. I apologize. I never know how this thing works.
It said, in February 2013, the bill HR 725, Real Education for Healthy Youth Act, was introduced to Congress. HR 725 would provide funding to sex education programs that, among other things, included in the curricula the development of, quote, healthy attitudes and values, unquote, about gender identity. In addition, it would prohibit the use of gender stereotypes within teaching. Seems like a pretty neutral approach, right? It says in the article. Gender must be part of sex education. 2 months after it was introduced, it was referred to a subcommittee. 2 years later, that prognosis shows a 0% chance of enactment. So under the current regime, this is going to be tough.
Well, because the way that a lot of people see it, even telling kids that sex exists is a bad thing, let alone problematic attitudes about sex and sexuality, like the fact that they're even told that it exists is a problem in these people's eyes. So
or that it's that there's pleasure involved,
right? Especially for women.
Oh shit, there is.
Yeah, your sex is supposed to feel real. I'll help.
Wait
you
a minute,
find that.
what?
I'll help you figure that one out.
Mr. Haven is really, really not following through on that department.
Oh God.
No,
Calling him out on the
I'm totally
podcast.
kidding. He's doing quite well as a husband, I guess. I think that's about all the time we've got for this
I was going to say that
segment.
was a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Callie.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's awesome talking to you.
Where's the best place to meet your online friends? Where's the best party where the fun never ends? Where will Bobby Carey be our MC too? I bet you'd go if you only knew. It's ReAsonCon, it's ReAsonCon in Hickory, North Carolina. It's ReAsonCon, it's ReAsonCon, and the speakers couldn't be finer. We've got Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Ra, Callie Wright and Lawrence Krauss. We've got god-awful movies coming to you live. And Jim Craig and Shelley Siegel really jive. It's ReAsonCon, it's ReAsonCon. Meet the people in your favorite podcasts. It's ReAsonCon, it's ReAsonCon. The conference where you'll have a blast.
As you may know, we are exposed to ample amounts of negative news every day, whether real or fake. We also face a lot of negative facts each day, real or alternative. Thankfully, puppies exist. They are the eye/ear bleach we all need in these trying times. Bearing this in mind, PSF's current events segment will bring you 2 headlines from this week that are quote-unquote Trumps and one that's a quote-unquote puppy. So we can end what will surely end in gnashing of teeth on a positive note. Warning, the following segment contains graphic descriptions about sexual assault. If you would like to skip to the next section, go about 6.5 minutes forward in this podcast to hear the other news segments. How do you solve a problem like a Trump? Welcome to 2 Trumps and a Puppy, where we talk about terrible things and then a puppy. So, here's some news. According to People Magazine /yahoo.com, the headline reads, Tennessee preacher accused of raping teenage student after binding her with rope.
Yeah.
Color me not surprised.
I'm so disappointed in my state.
So, from the article, it says, a Tennessee preacher and teacher's assistant has been accused of binding and then raping one of the teenage girls from his school, though his defense attorney says he is innocent and, quote, has not committed any crime.
Yeah, but...
Dude. Yeah, but...
Well, you'll get to it, but there's like a recording. I don't understand.
Yeah. So he's a pastor, Bethlehem Baptist Church in Henderson, Tennessee. She is a student at Chester County where he worked, and he was suspended from his teacher's position on February 17th, moments before he was taken into custody. The day before he was arrested, authorities allege he directed the teen to do some cleaning in his office, which is contained within a detached garage on his property.
That sounds very, very safe and very,
What was she even doing there?
Seems legit.
Like, why was she at his house? Not that it's her fault, but I'm just curious. Why?
Creepy.
Yeah.
Apparently, the court records show the victim was paid to clean his house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I used to do that for people at my
Yeah.
church. So.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I was like 12.
Okay, I guess I did that too. It's nice that us women, if we go to church, we've been taught to be maids for everybody else.
Yeah. Or babysitters. So, according to the article, the victim told investigators that Ulmer allegedly used a rope to bind her wrists in the garage. He then wove the rope through a hook in the ceiling, she claimed, which prevented her from escaping. According to court records, she told police Ulmer allegedly sexually assaulted her after she was bound. He has been charged with rape, sexual battery, and assault, to which he has pleaded not guilty. The assault charge was filed after the same victim told police she had been abused by Ulmer nearly 4 months ago. So this has been going on for a little while.
I also feel like maybe he doesn't think he did anything wrong because he paid the 50 shekels to her father. That's allegedly,
Allegedly.
I'm kidding. As a pastor, that's all he has to do as a follower of God.
Wow, this is so scary.
Yeah, I'm going to be shit for discussion for this one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's fine.
Just
You're fine.
to wrap this terribleness up, Ulmer has been released on $250,000 bond and is due back in court on May 9th. Neither Ulmer's church nor the local school district responded to requests for comment. His defense attorney, Mark Donahoe, tells People he intends on vigorously fighting the charges. Quote, "We maintain that Mike did nothing wrong," Donahoe says. Fuck that shit.
Which is crazy because the victim here has an alleged record, like she started recording that incident in the car. And so they have a recording where she can be heard say, asking him to stop. Like that sounds like pretty solid proof to me. I don't see how they can fight this. So let's hope that this guy goes to jail.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very much related to all those cases that have been in the news recently, like the guy who was a swimmer and got off with very little time, and
he was an athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently that makes him not a rapist, or less of a rapist. And there was the guy who had raped somebody with a coat hanger, and he also got off with no time at all.
Yeah.
So this is complete bullshit and things should change. And I'm holding this article right here. Just listen. That's what I think of that. So, listen to somebody when they're talking about assault.
Okay, so for our next Trump, which is not actually a Trump, it's actually some positive news on the activism side of things. The women who organized the Women's March that happened, I believe that was January 23rd? I don't know. When was that?
I was there.
The day after the day after the inauguration of
It was January 21st.
Trump. 21st. Okay, well, the women who organized that are organizing a Day Without Women on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. So that's coming up.
Yes.
I believe it will be literally, it'll be 2 days after the podcast, after the podcast you're listening to releases.
Yeah, that's the day I'm having surgery. So if there were no women there, I would not have anybody to give me medicine. So I'm really concerned.
Okay, so yes, let's hope that Miss B's and anesthesiologist and nurses decide to not let her die. We don't want to lose Miss B. Well, anyway, so on their website, they say, women and our allies will act together for equity, justice, and the human rights of women and all gender-oppressed people through a one-day demonstration of economic solidarity. So basically what they want to do is have a general strike on that day, very much like the Day Without Immigrants that just happened recently.
Yes.
So what possible repercussions of this are that, women-owned businesses could close down for a day, or women might not be going to work. This kind of works out for me because I'm off on Wednesdays, so I'll just hide at my house.
My mom actually told me that because she was planning on taking the day off to support my poor husband who's going to be waiting for me to get out of surgery. She was like, well, I'm going to be off of work anyways for Day Without Women Day.
Technically, your surgery will be you not being involved in other things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're going to be knocked out.
A very extreme.
You are going to be like totally on strike.
A very extreme example. I'll be eating ice cream sandwiches.
So, this should be kind of like a physical jab at the economy, hopefully proving to politicians and other people that that women are important for the economy and they're important for, cultural structure and how things run. The general strike tactic itself was born among labor-oriented political movements where groups of people all leave their places of work to demand political or economic action. And so this general strike for the Women's March also indicates it would boycott certain businesses, which I don't have a list of. So that's great.
That might be on their website once it gets closer to it.
So here are some of the things that you can do to participate in the general strike, which is take the day off from paid and unpaid labor, avoid shopping for one day, and wear red in solidarity with the Day Without Women. So basically, go take a bath for that day, get yourself nice and cuddly up in bed, and watch Netflix, and don't do anything. That's what you're supposed to do, and wear some red. Red
Awesome.
lipstick, red nail polish, a red hat, red socks. Those are my suggestions.
I'm going to wear my,
No
I got
clothes.
a t-shirt that says, build this wall, and it has, female reproductive organs on one side of the wall and then the Capitol building on the other. So I'm going to wear that. It's pink. I think pink probably counts. I'm going to wear that for my surgery. So, I'm excited.
I'll be wearing
Awesome.
the blood of the patriarchy.
Yes, as well you should. Bathing in
As every day.
in male white tears.
It's
As
my
I do
everyday look.
every day. Okay, so in conclusion, on their website, they say When millions of us stood together in January, we saw clearly that our army of love greatly outnumbers that of fear, greed, and hatred. Let's raise our voices together again to say that women's rights are human rights, regardless of a woman's race, ethnicity, religion, immigration status, sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, age, or disability. Yeah. And then we will link to this page of this website so that you can find more information on it. So Check that out in the show notes.
All right. It's time for a puppy. Let's do this.
Bring in the puppy. Good. So I had that open. Oh, there it is.
Not that Day Without Women is a Trump necessarily, but...
It's more of a newsy news thing.
Yes.
And the puppy is fun.
Yay, puppies.
Puppies. So... This puppy is that 37 politicians got a mural dedicated to their most shameful comments about women. Yep. Artists Zoe Buckman and Natalie Frank collected shockingly ignorant quotes from Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and more, and put them on a wall for all to see. See, I love political artistic activism, I suppose is a good way to put that. I'm always seeing that people are coming up with much better ideas than me, but that's fine. It's not a big deal.
Is our homeboy from Oklahoma on there? The one that we talked about the other week?
What's his name?
Very forgettable.
Yeah, he is
very forgettable.
It's like Joseph something? Jonathan? It's a J name.
I'll look it up.
No, I'm not seeing that. John Coaster? Jan Brewer. There's a whole list of them. There's so many.
Is Todd Aiken on there?
No, but Donald Trump is on there several times.
Good. As he should
Chris
be.
Christie is on there. Mike Huckabee, John F. Kennedy, Rick Santorum, Mike Pence, Ben Carson. I don't know. Milo is on there too, but he's not a politician, so I don't know why he made it onto the board. I mean, I do, but he shouldn't be on the board.
Yeah.
But some of the quotes include things like... I would hope that when a woman goes into a physician with a rape issue, that physician will indeed ask her, was this pregnancy caused by normal relations in a marriage, or was it truly caused by rape? Who said that? Chuck Winder. What an ass. What's some other quote? So the wall, basically, it's really interesting. I don't know what the image behind it is. Let's see if it says. So the wall is like a sort of a big wall with this pink photograph, like pink toned photograph behind it. And it's basically what looks like a meeting happening behind, like just a meeting with a bunch of men, white cis men. And then all the quotes are over top of it in different font sizes with little numbers next to them. And then you can look on the side of the wall and find the number to see who said what. There it is. So that's the background is an image of an old boys club. White men sitting around a conference table. Guess they did used to have those kind of things, didn't they?
Yeah.
Men's clubs.
Used to.
Indubitably.
They used to still have one. It's called Congress.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, so this mural is located in New York, I believe. Maybe not, though. There are so many words in this article, I can't find my stuff. Oh, well.
That's okay.
Well, yeah. It's not a very well, what's the word? Organized article, so it like just looks like giant walls of text. But yeah, so the artist said that they wanted to make a statement that's not just arresting, but also hopefully like exciting and aesthetic, because beauty and art is their currency. And that there's a real lack of understanding for the female body and the reproductive system. I just thought that was really cool. It's a really neat mural.
We'll have that posted with the show notes so you can see the mural, because that's kind of the point.
To see the mural, yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, it is kind of like the point to look at something. It definitely doesn't tell me in this article where it's located. I don't know why. Well, I'll Google it and we'll link that location on the show notes as well, unless it's traveling. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed that puppy and got through the Trumps all right, and we hope to see you or not see you at the Women's March, at the Day Without Women.
Yeah.
Hey, women Netflix and chill on Day Without Women Day?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Girl,
All right.
on Netflix and chill with me.
Let's do it.
Moving on.
I wanted to take a moment and thank a new patron of ours. Their name is Ingrid, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for supporting PSF. I really look forward to having you as a patron, and I look forward to having your input since you've been so helpful in getting this relaunch back up and running. Thank you for your support. Want to support PSF and Princess Sparkle Farts in the fight for all that is right, true, and equitable? You can become a patron today. You can pledge a certain amount per episode, and depending on what you pledge, you can get rewards for being a patron. So if you're interested in any of these rewards, or if you're just interested in supporting what we do here at PSF, go check out www.patreon.com/promoting secular feminism. I just wanted to take a moment and remind our listeners that your support is very important to us, whether or not you are supporting us financially through Patreon or by rating and reviewing us on a bunch of different outlets such as Spreaker or iTunes. And we have some great reviews on iTunes that I just wanted to read and also thank those people who were reviewing us on iTunes. So if you want to help out this podcast, a great thing that you can do is to rate and review us on wherever you're listening to us. So Macklebauer wrote, "If nothing else, I've learned a fun new word, osmolality. PSF is an awesome podcast, and it's a shame that they don't have more reviews saying so. My podcast favorites list is like one big penis gallery, so it is great to finally have some women around to keep everyone in check, myself especially. These ladies and penises are intelligent and funny, and the podcast is refreshing to listen to." Thank you so much, Macklebauer. A Doll's Garden says, "Fantastic feminist fun. These women are funny and smart and worth listening to. I wish I knew people in real life who even considered these ideas." And then the last one says PSF, and it's by Erica Sybeth Mudek. And they say, "I love, love, love this podcast. Combines two of my passions, and I'm always looking forward to the next episodes." Smiley face. Thank you so much for these great reviews, and I look forward to seeing more from our current listeners. Thanks so much.
Hey everybody, it's Bella Constrictor, and I am here to share some awesome sex and relationship stuff with you. First, we're going to start with our trivia question, as per usual, the answer to which you will get at the end of the segment. And this week, we're going over the clitoris. So strap in for some great information. Are you ready for this week's trivia question? Is there a difference between the vulva and the vagina? Stick around to the end of the segment to find out the difference between these two terms. So today we're going to talk about a very specific part of human anatomy, the clitoris. Most parts of the arousal network have a dual purpose, usually reproductive. But the clitoris has one job, pleasure. Its sole purpose is to make you moan and groan and twitch and seize. The clitoral network is made up of three main parts. Well, four, if you count the hood. It's technically not a part of the organ itself, but it is incredibly important. The head of the clitoris alone has anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 nerve endings. It is incredibly sensitive, and the hood steps up as a tiny piece of evolutionary mastery as the protector of the bliss button. So the three main parts really are the head, or glans. It comes in all shapes and sizes, from tiny peas to big olives. It is the only part of the clitoris that is above the skin. And most, but not all, require direct clitoral stimulation to reach orgasm. The shaft, which is also called the body or corpus, is about as thick as a chopstick or a pencil, but the size may vary. It is loosely encased in a tube of tissue, which allows for some movement, and you can actually very easily feel the shaft. It is right behind the hood. You might find that some actually prefer stimulation of the shaft over direct attention paid to the head, due to it becoming overstimulated.
and the last part is the legs, or cure. They come down from the shaft, bending around the entire pubic arch, which is the name for the inner portion of your pubic area. Imagine them like a wishbone, hugging your vaginal canal and other bits we may discuss in other segments. Not a lot is known about clitoral legs, and they are often regarded as just the anchors. But some sex geeks have speculated that stimulation to any part of the clitoris is solely responsible for orgasms. For instance, vaginal-only stimulation rarely gives rise to an orgasm, but for those that can come this way, it is thought that they may be stimulating their clitoral legs, or that their clitoris is located closer to the entrance of the vaginal canal, allowing for some stimulation to happen. Now, remember when we were talking about the legs? I want to know, or maybe you want to know, whether you're a righty or a lefty. Some people have found through anecdotal evidence that they prefer stimulation to one side of their clitoris. Sex geek Dangerous Lily of DangerousLily.com writes, I first noticed this years ago when I found the first vibrator that mostly worked for me, a cheap pocket rocket, and noticed that I had to angle it just so to hit that tiny little spot on the right side of my clitoral shaft. This spot is so sensitive that a vibrator that is only semi-powerful and mostly rumbly can bring me to orgasm. Yet a super-powered broad simulation wand-style vibrator is hit or miss. She says that a reader found her review of the aforementioned vibrator and created sort of a validating account to this find. Quote, my clitoris, which is a righty, by the way, responds just fine to some pressure and localized vibrations to the magic spot there on the right side. Many vibrators can't get to that exact location because they're too big or vibrations don't travel well enough to reach that spot. Very interesting. So I hope you guys go find your vibrators and let us know, or me know, whether or not you're a righty or a lefty. I am a righty, I believe. So happy hunting, happy orgasms, and let's get to that trivia question. Alright, everybody. So yes, big time, there is a difference between vulva and vagina. But thanks to poor sex education and bad cultural references, many people use the word vagina when they really mean vulva. You see, the vulva is the external genital area. It includes the labia majora, that's those big outer lips. The labia minora, those are typically smaller lips, but they come in all sorts of sizes. And the clitoris, and finally, the introitus, which is the fancy science name for the entrance to the vaginal canal. And the entrance to your urethra is also in there somewhere. Okay, so the vagina is basically the vaginal canal. Simply put, it's the inside, where the penis goes. Or dildo, or fingers, or fist, or nothing. Perhaps you don't like penetration at all. Put simply, every time someone refers to their vagina, they usually mean their vulva. Because most people are not talking about the inside of their body. I think that we should start making sure that we use these two words properly to help re-educate the populace, one person at a time. What do you think? And that about does it for Hisses and Kisses, the segment where we slither our way through some seriously sexy and slippery topics. Until next time, back to you, Miss B.
Next on the Dr. Wu Show, superstar Bunny Dimcorn talks about vaginal health. Dr. Wu speaks to a dead pet psychic, and we learn about a little something called Pop Rocks Enemas. All this and more on this week's Dr. Wu.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Dr. Wu. I'm Dr. Wisteria Wu, and this is my show. Today we have a very special guest, Hollywood megastar and alt-health businesswoman, a good friend of mine. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Bunny Dimcorn. Welcome to my show, Bunny.
I'm sorry. Have we met?
Oh, Bunny, you crack me up.
Where am I?
My dear bunny, you're not having another one of your episodes, are you?
Am I? Oh, maybe I am. I'm sorry. I haven't eaten much this week. I'm on a new juice cleanse, and it tends to make me a little, lightheaded from time to time.
I love juice. Tell us all about it.
Tell you all about what?
The juice cleanse.
I love juice cleanses. Which one are you doing?
I'm not on a juice cleanse.
Oh, you really should try one. You're looking a bit bloated and your chakras are all out of alignment. I'm on a juice cleanse right now, in fact.
You don't say.
I do say. It's called a napkin juice cleanse.
Fascinating. What is a napkin juice cleanse?
Napkin juice. The juice of a napkin?
Why, I didn't even know napkins had juice.
They do. You have to use only organic napkins, of course.
Of course.
Then you put the napkins in a blender, mix in some fresh spring water, and there you have it. A beautiful, flavorless pulp you can choke down to remove your appetite and all of those troublesome toxins. It's full of vitamin Q, chemical-free water, and we can't drink enough water, and of course, plenty of fiber. After a week of drinking only napkin juice, I've never felt better. Plus, I pee out my butt now.
Applause. So, tell us more about Blargh.
5 years ago, I was frustrated at the lack of organic health food and GMO-free oxygen. So I created Blargh. Blargh.org is now the world's largest website that sells the finest spiritually attuned shampoo, gluten-free yoga mats, psychic underwear, and vaginal scrubs.
That's all so amazing. What's your favorite product you sell?
Definitely our all-natural, chemical-free vaginal scrubs. We sell a variety of scrubs, banana and organic peanut butter, chocolate mousse with cherry cordial, key lime pie, and espresso.
And how does that work?
Well, it's very simple. You take the scrub and apply it to your chemical-free vagina scrubber and just shove it up there. Just like if you were scrubbing your toilet, that's basically all the vagina scrubber is, a toilet brush with some eagle feathers glued onto it. Once you've got it jammed up in there, you just go to town, really dig around in there until all of the toxins flow out of your body in bloody chunks.
Bloody chunks?
Yes! That's how you know the scrub is working. It's very natural, just like menses, sneezing, or throwing up after a meal.
Interesting. And that's not the only product you have for your vagina, is it?
Oh no, we have vagina steamers, vagina starchers, vagina dry cleaners, all GMO and chemical free, of course, and rattlesnake vagina eggs.
Come again?
Oh, you will be, trust me. You stuff a few of those babies up in your hoo-ha, and they start hatching, squirming around, fighting for dominance over your pee hole. Very erotic. It's an ancient Chinese secret.
Really?
Yes. Well, Chinese or Japanese, or maybe Atlantis? One of those old cultures famous for their knowledge of the healing properties of rattlesnake eggs in your vajayjay.
Wow. Any other products for shoving up your womb?
Plenty. We also have a new line of poisonous vagina frogs. They help balance your hormones or something.
Isn't that dangerous?
Oh, no, not at all. There is nothing more natural or organic than poisonous frogs. You get 6 or 12 of those suckers stuffed up your baby chute, squirming around next to your mucous membranes, releasing vital toxin-fighting neurotoxins. Nothing like it. Why, the last time I did it, I couldn't walk for a week. Also, my vagina fell out.
Your vagina fell out?
Yeah. I thought I had to pee, but really, my vagina was just falling out. Not in little bits either, but in one big shoop. Looked like I'd given birth to a deflated weather balloon. It was wild.
And what are the health benefits of having one's vagina fall out?
Great question, Nancy.
Wisteria.
Who is that?
I'm Wisteria, Dr. Wu.
I love that show.
Not Doctor Who, Dr. Wu.
Woo! Yeah. What were we talking about?
You were explaining the advantages of having one's vagina fall out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's much easier to clean. I send my vagina to get steamed and pressed at least once a week. Twice if it's a full moon. Also, I can use it as a purse. See?
Oh my god. Is that your vagina? I thought it was alligator skin.
Yes! It has gotten a bit leathery. All of those poisoned vagina frog cleanses, no doubt. I can keep all sorts of things in here. Rattlesnakes, poisoned vagina frogs, cactus plant tampons, some unwrapped mints. Oh, do you want a mint? I make my own mints. They are chemical-free.
Sure.
They're for your vagina. I often find my own vagina to be a bit funky after a routine poisonous frog cleansing.
I can imagine. I'll save this for later.
Also, I have this new thing we're trying. Vaginas cleanses. That's where we stuff someone's vagina up someone else's vagina. There's nothing more natural than GMO and gluten-free vaginas. Would you like me to show you? It should be pretty easy now that mine has fallen out and I've turned it into a purse.
Wow, look at the time. Looks like we'll have to do that next time. Thank you for coming on our show, Bunny.
You're welcome, Steve.
Next on Dr. Wu, Pop Rocks aren't just a candy from your childhood, they're also the latest fashion in enema cleansing. Snap, crackle, poop.
Ooh, enemas. Yummo.
Indeed.
Also, we speak to Olga Derpendorf, psychic to dead pet stars. Maybe I can find out where Dr. Winky buried the keys to my Lexus. Also, we ask the question, are you drinking too much or not enough water? The answer is yes. All of this and more on the next hour of Dr. Wu.
Thanks for listening to PSF, Promoting Secular Feminism. To find more episodes, you can check out our website at www.promotingsecularfeminism.com. Or if you want to get in touch, you can email us at promotingsecularfeminism@gmail.com. You can also find episodes on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate and review us. We love 5-star reviews. I'm Miss B. Haven because well-behaved women rarely make history.